Hello and welcome to the Total Clarity Podcast. I'm Mike Varley.
And I'm Jesse Hyatt.
And this is week 33 of our 52-week walk around New York City.
It is, and this week we're walking a route called the 2 Racetracks.
Yeah, lots of exciting stuff happened this week. First off, this is our first week of our final month of Queens.
Whoa!
We're starting to
Really?
reach our finals. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, if you can believe it.
I didn't realize.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's right.
I guess I can believe it, though.
Yeah, so that's very exciting.
Yeah.
We had a heck of a weather week, so that's exciting. We're going to get into that a little bit later.
Yeah, snowy, blowy.
Snowy and blowy. More snow in New York City than we've had in, I think, at least 5 years is what I heard.
That's what they've been saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that. And we got to visit the 2 racetracks of the New York City area.
Yeah, so New York City has the Aqueduct and the Belmont.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any others in New York City?
Not in New York City presently. We split up the responsibilities for research this week. So I took Belmont, Jesse took Aqueduct.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I have a little bit of info on that.
Yeah, I have some fun things to share with
But
you.
the short answer is no.
Okay.
There are none.
Okay.
And yeah, we have, both these parks are on what might be considered the outskirts of Queens a little
Right.
bit, at the edges, because racetracks take up a lot of space.
That's true. Yeah, so the Aqueduct is out near JFK.
Yeah.
And Belmont is actually technically in Nassau, which is another fun thing that we're doing this week. And I was going to say another fun first, but we haven't listed any firsts. It's just another thing. It is a first. We went into Nassau County, which is known as Long Island. It's always confusing because technically we're on Long Island when we're in Brooklyn and Queens, but it's what people refer to as Long Island.
That's right. We had to make a judgment call as to whether or not leaving the city limits made sense.
Yeah.
In this case, Belmont is part of kind of the city vibe.
Right. It's literally on the border of Queens and Nassau County.
That's
Nassau.
right.
Nassau.
Yeah.
I'm not from Long Island.
Yeah. So our route, in fact, has us going to a park, I think Pat Williams Park, where you can see the Belmont. But
right.
we decided to go a little bit beyond, go that extra couple of steps over into to view the park. And so you'll get a chance to see that at some point
Which,
too.
while we're talking about it, just real quick, this is not something I've shared with you, but it's, for some reason, I guess because I've only ever really taken the Long Island Railroad or driven out to Long Island.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make sense to me that we can walk there. Like when we realized that we had passed
We can walk to the center of the earth, according to our mileage
I know,
recap.
which is why it's ridiculous, because
But Nassau County's too far.
We've obviously already done these multi-city. I mean, we walked the entire state of Vermont 2 summers ago. I know that we can
right.
walk from city to city, but we had these weird, we kind of had to do weird highway things when we did that. And we actually did kind of have to do a weird highway thing on this route, but not nearly as extreme as it's been in other states. And there's just, there's something that in my head when I realized that we had crossed over into Long Island, I was like, how do we do that?
Black magic.
I don't know if that makes sense, but it was
the dark arts.
I was very shocked.
Yeah.
And then, because it also just felt still like Queens.
Uh-huh.
It just blended seamlessly. I thought there'd be more of you're running through a gate, or I don't know, you're passed into the other
So that's funny because maybe...
But no, I really just felt like you had to be in a car to get there.
Maybe it's the fact that I'm from Long Island, but I felt a difference in
You
the
did?
neighborhoods. I did.
Oh, interesting.
We were going through Elmont.
Yeah.
Belmont is in Elmont. There are some really nice collections of homes. Really enjoy them.
Yeah.
And yeah, they just feel, something about them feels more, I don't know, it feels more intentioned in its development. I don't even want to say suburban necessarily. It's just like the way in which the houses are all next to each other and the size of them and whatnot. Just something about them, maybe just because they are more uniform. I don't really know. And it could just be all me putting some idea on it. Maybe the houses in Queens Village, just on the other side of the expressway, are the same. But it didn't seem that way to me.
There's something that made you feel like you were home.
No, not even home, because Nassau and Suffolk County are different in their own right.
Yeah.
But just it felt like, I was on Long Island.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. I mean, I definitely noticed when we were in that neighborhood that it was like that we had entered a new neighborhood.
Yeah.
But for me, I just felt like, oh, I guess we're in a new neighborhood in Queens. I wonder what this is. And then I realized we were in a new neighborhood in a new county.
Yeah.
So anyway, we went to Long Island this weekend.
That's right.
Or this week.
But let's get into the racetracks. Let's
talk about them. Yeah.
You want to start?
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Great. So let's start with Aqueduct.
Okay. So I have this big book here.
There we go.
I'm going to start with telling everyone that, and you, Mike, Aqueduct Racetrack is also attached to a casino called Resorts World.
Yes.
And what they call that is a racino.
Oh.
Have you ever heard that term?
No, I haven't.
I haven't either. I thought it was very cute. It's just a racetrack and a casino combined.
Yeah.
I looked at it. I was like, what's a racino? And I thought that there'd be some sort of special description, but it's a racetrack and a casino, and they've mashed it together.
Yeah.
But also, while I was reading about it, I think it has something to do with the fact that there aren't in the casino, there aren't dealers, like physical people in person dealing out cards. There's only electronic devices. And I think there's different levels of casino. So apparently in 2023, New York City is supposed to be allowed to start bidding on full-fledged casinos. That might even get pushed earlier since there's all these financial issues right now.
Right.
But yeah, there's something about the racetrack element that makes, I guess because there's already betting happening at the racetrack, they allow some types of other gambling to happen.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, it's some kind of loophole. Honestly, like all of this, I've never been to a racetrack that I know of. I've never gambled at a casino. Like, it's all so new to me. I don't really understand any of it. So I might be getting a little bit confused, but it seems like the racino is sort of like, a way to get extra money in the purse is what they said.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, historically, from what I've gathered, and it was really like trying to make the decision for like how deep to dive on these topics, because we were talking about the racetracks and then we go into casinos, which leads to the history of gambling in New York State.
Yeah.
And there has been at various times attempts to curtail gambling and horse racing as a consequence in the state, which maybe that's why they have these weird rules about, the types of casino operations that can happen.
Yeah.
And with gambling rules recently relaxing in recent years, I think it's going to be coming back. But it is the only casino in the city currently.
It's the only casino that's actually in the confines of the 5 boroughs.
Right.
There's a couple casino, like there's one right outside the Bronx, Empire. There's another one, I think, slightly south and over. Like, there's a couple that are sort of just outside of the city limits. But at the moment, the Resorts World, I believe, is the only one actually in the city.
And Atlantic City, obviously.
Right.
And like Mohegan Sun in Connecticut.
Casino is one that opened near where I grew up.
Yeah.
Like within the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Speaking of what you just said, the gambling rules changing so much over time. One thing that's I thought was kind of interesting and like maybe a little fishy. Resorts World opened in 2011. And
wow, it's been there that long?
Oh, I thought that was that seemed new in
I mean,
my
it is new, but it also,
opinion.
I don't know. Go on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's also like basically like almost as long as either of us has lived here.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like we would have known. If it was more recent, I feel like I would have heard like, oh, there's a casino. Like, I feel like there would have been more rumbling about it. But they were doing all sorts of different negotiations for almost 10 years leading up to that of different groups bidding for it. And there was one organization that was going to open it, and they like had the contract for 2 years, but then they couldn't make a $350 million prepayment to the city, so they lost their contract, so they had to open up bidding all over again. And then when they finally got the company that has it right now, which is a Malaysian company, I forget what they're called, but then they start partnering with all sorts of different people, and then that's like a whole nother system. And at one point Jay-Z was involved, but then there was some kind of like quid pro quo thing that was like being said was happening. So then Jay-Z had to back out so the other guy could like keep his standing in the casino. And like this is also all from Wikipedia, so like you can go read it. But I was reading it last night, and then I fell asleep, and then I read it again today, and was also like, it's really just like lists of like long lists of names of like all these people were involved, and then all these people were involved, and then there was Jay-Z, and like, yeah, it's very like, I don't know, it seems just really convoluted, the whole thing, getting this thing built.
Yeah.
But in the time that happened, I guess off-track betting was having a hard time. And in 2010 was when off-track betting financially collapsed and permanently closed. But Resorts World opened in 2011. And apparently the Aqueduct saw a 61% increase in one day.
Okay.
Because of off-track betting closing.
Right.
And coming to their facilities. And they started offering free shuttle bus services from old OTB branches. And then with that free shuttle bus, you would also get a free hot dog, a free soft drink, and a post-parade program.
Okay.
There was like the little number that's above, not a footnote, but whatever. I could have clicked on that. I didn't.
Yeah. Citation?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
About the post-parade program. Maybe we'll find out later.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get to just the history of the aqueduct real quick.
Sure.
So it was opened in 1894.
Okay.
So if you think Resorts World has been around for a while,
right,
the aqueduct has been around for a real long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they were opened by the Queens County Jockey Club at that time. It was named after the Ridgewood Aqueduct.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, which we've talked about before on here.
Yeah, way back before we even started walking.
Yeah.
When we were in hard quarantine.
Yeah.
We went to the aqueduct because it's within normal walking distance of our house.
Yeah, it's not too far from here at all. Yeah, and I guess at the time, it was considered to be close by.
Yeah.
Which is fun. That's like what it said. Oh, it was named after the nearby waterway.
Right.
Which now I don't think anyone in Ridgewood would really consider the aqueduct near JFK to be like close by. Not in the same way. Like it
it's
seems
like 4 or 5 miles,
far.
I think.
Yeah, and just probably with all the development now, like at the time it was also probably just more like open land.
Yeah.
And 4 to 5 miles really isn't that far in open land, but in a cityscape.
Yeah.
It's like many neighborhoods apart too.
Right.
So in 1955, the aqueduct changed hands. It was taken over by the Greater New York Association, which is also the NYRA.
Yep.
Which I see that acronym a lot.
And
I guess you know about them because they also own Belmont, Saratoga, and the Jamaica Racecourse, which is no longer a race course. It's now a housing project in Jamaica.
That's right. So yeah, they owned it and then I think flipped it immediately. Well, within 4 years flipped it.
Yeah, I read something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then right around the time when they took over, they did a 2-year, $33 million renovation on the aqueduct. And part of that was to switch out one of the tracks that had previously been a turf course to make it a dirt course.
Yeah.
And I guess because it has a dirt course, it can be open year-round.
Right.
Something about puddling or something.
Okay.
So they have 3 courses at the aqueduct. They have the main track, which is the dirt course. That's 1 mile and 1/8.
Okay.
1 1/8 mile. There's the main turf course, which is 1 mile. And then there's the inner turf course, which is not measured in miles. It is 7.065 furlongs.
Yeah.
Which is a word I've never heard. Like, I rode horses for 10 years. I've never heard of a furlong. And
Really?
then I looked it up. Yeah, and it's not even a horse term. It's just like a old, stupid unit of measure. I'm sorry, furlongs. But I guess it's just like an old, like, king's measurement.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm familiar with the term. I couldn't tell you what the exact length is.
It's, well, 8 furlongs is a mile.
Oh, okay. There you go.
But I guess the furlong is I forget the word for it, but it's like an old sort of type of measurement that is just used in very specific cases.
Yeah.
So that's the racetrack.
Yeah. Well, why don't we talk about our experience of actually going
Yeah,
there?
let's talk about it.
So, for starters, I was thinking about how to describe it as far as like going there. And I feel like it's like no other place I've been to in New York City, but like many places I've been to outside of New York City.
Really?
I think so, yeah.
Oh. Well, when we first, okay.
I mean, not like 1,000 places, but like it definitely feels similar in the way that things are spaced.
As far as like, what part of it are we talking about? Because there's really kind of like 3 sections, I'd say, that we experienced.
Okay.
There's the parking lot. Is that what you're talking about?
I'm talking about...
There's like leading up to it.
Well, what are your 3 spaces?
Okay, so there's the parking lot leading up to it.
Uh-huh.
There's the racetrack itself, which we were not able to enter, but we could see from a bird's eye view in the 3rd space, which is the casino.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm referring to the exterior space.
Okay.
Which surrounds Aqueduct itself.
Yeah. Okay, I agree with you on that then, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels like a big old parking lot.
It feels clean and new. The fact that it was from 2011 was why it was surprising to me. They have these like big triangular islands within the parking lot area that are filled with light stone gravel.
Right.
To make everything look kind of clean. And it immediately got snowed on the rest of the week, but we did get a chance to see it. But it was unusual in how it was fairly well manicured. And again, just not something that you would see in New York City, like all this space and fairly new looking construction.
Yeah. Well, the hotel that's there is brand new, like within the year.
Yeah.
So maybe maybe they did some sort of like cleaning up, fancying up.
Maybe, yeah. It's also currently the site of COVID vaccinations.
Right. Yeah.
Which was interesting because approaching it on the first day and really most subsequent days, it felt like there was all this traffic that was driving around, but also this weird sense of vacancy, as though all of the traffic was simulated. Like we were in a video game and it was like AI or something.
Sure, yeah, I can see how you would see it that way.
Yeah, and it may just be because I'm unused to a space seeming operational right now.
It definitely did seem operational. Also, yeah, I mean, when there's a lot of traffic in New York City, it's so rare that it's flowing well. And it was like there were 2 lanes and there were like people coming in, there were people going out.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone was honking. Like, no one was going the wrong way.
Right.
No one was, like, trying to make a weird turn anywhere. They were just, like, coming in or going out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when we knew we were going to be doing this walk, and we also knew that the aqueduct was a vaccine site, I was at least curious, like, I had heard stories of, at the end of the day, people are going out onto the street that work there saying, like, oh, we have a few extra doses, like, if anyone's out here. And I don't get the feeling that that's happening there, because the vaccine site is so far from where anyone would typically be walking.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that we were just doing this project this week brought us down all the way to that spot. But no one would ever be walking there, just like casually. I mean, maybe they go offer vaccines to people in the casino or something, but it really was removed. Like, it was in the most far part of the parking lot possible.
Yeah, it seemed that way.
Yeah.
So that was there's also a train stop, an A train stop that goes right there. And that seems to funnel in right into, I don't know if it funnels into the racetrack seating or the casino, probably both. I think
it's both. Yeah.
But it kind of goes overhead into that area.
Yeah, I think it might kind of like split off.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We didn't actually walk up that part.
And then the part 2 would be the casino, which we made the decision to go into on our final day, which is today. We're recording at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And yeah, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. Well, so when you said that the outside reminded you of nowhere in New York City, the inside of the casino weirdly reminded me of Spa Castle. That was the first thing I thought of when we walked in there. Yeah, I mean, I would really like to go back there post-COVID. It was a little weird. I mean, we like kind of went in, I like expected to be carded, and I expected to have to like do something before going in. Like, I expected someone to at least like acknowledge us.
Yeah.
And there was security, and there was some like weird heat sensor thing we had to walk through. There were all these signs that were like, you're walking through a temperature check.
Yeah.
But it was basically like going through those huge Easy Pass things that don't actually have the booths, where like, I don't know how it worked. But yeah, no one like stopped us. And then it was all very confusing. Like, it felt like you had to just like know what you were doing. It was really loud. They were playing I'm Blue, a Dabba Dee. I was green, I would die. Blue. How does that song go? I'm blue, if I were green, I would die.
Is that what the words are?
I'm blue, a Dabba Dee, Dabba Die. I think it's I remember in elementary
Eiffel
school.
65?
Yeah, that's right. I remember in elementary school, kids would say, I'm blue, if I were green, I would die. But then I never knew if those were the real words, because it just sounds like a Dabba Dee, Dabba Die.
They were also playing Beck and Green Day.
Yeah.
And yeah.
But then there's like all the noises of the machines, and it's very chaotic. And I think like I was overwhelmed by like feeling like it's like weird that there's people in here right now.
There were a
like,
lot of people
during COVID. That's what I felt too, but I also am not sure how much of that was just like there was also just like a lot happening. Like, it's buzzy and it's huge, and like it wasn't crowded by any means. But it felt like, like there are a lot of people in here. So we kind of just like went in, used the bathroom. I put $10 into a slot machine, and like it was gone in 5 minutes. So I also understand, well, I didn't know how to use the slot machine.
Right.
I like was like also spent quite a bit of time just being like, do I just put my, like I was like watching people, like what are they doing?
Right.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I mean, I didn't win.
Yeah.
I didn't even know how to, then I was like trying to pull the thing, and like that, it like was just for a prop. So I was like, it wasn't doing it. And there were buttons, and I didn't know what the buttons did. I just kind of like pushed each button once, and then it was like, you're done.
Yeah.
I got 7 cents. I hit cash out, and it gave me a ticket that said 7 cents. So
it was a penny slot machine where the max bet was $3 a pull. And I mean, look, I don't know much more than Jesse.
Yeah.
But it ended up being that, like, she pressed max once or twice and then it was all gone.
Yeah, I don't understand what happened.
I don't know why it's a penny slot machine, but you were able to lose $3 a spin. But the idea is that, like, there are all sorts of different ways you can make matches, diagonal, across, whatnot. And so you did hit once for
hit one match.
60 cents.
Right.
And then whatever, it was gone pretty much immediately after that.
I mean, and honestly, it was fine. Like, I don't know. It was like I had either a 10 or a 20 in my wallet. And I was like, well, I'm not putting a 20 into a slot machine. So I'll put the 10 in and I'll probably be able to play this for, I don't know how long. I don't know what I was expecting. I'm glad I did it. It was a fun experience. I feel like I have some information for the next time. I'd like to go back post-COVID and spend some time there. And yeah, I don't know. See what it's really like.
Yeah. Yeah.
It seems fun. I said when we were there, cut this out if you don't want it shared, but I said, I want to be able to come back here after COVID and really have a fun time like you're supposed to have. And then you said casinos aren't fun. They're not made for fun. And I didn't know what you meant by that, but
well, why don't you elaborate now? The slot machine thing doesn't really appeal to me because I don't know how to play them well enough, but ultimately it just feels like I'm just slowly getting drained of money.
Yeah.
I mean, there are card games too. I don't mind the card games. It's just not necessarily something that's for me.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing about the slots.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. But I think the other thing about the slots that I thought was going to be more fun, I thought it was more like the whammy game.
Uh-huh.
You know how like I thought you could kind of like time it.
Yeah, no.
Whereas like you just push a button and then it goes and it's random and like you really just have no control.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there
Maybe
may be some that's more timing or give you the illusion of timing.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know that the whammy really has that much, but it feels like you can control. Like once you see the whammy, you stop and then
Yeah. I mean, the whole area feels like a really nice lobby.
Yeah.
Like, the carpets are very clean. Everything, it seemed like they were doing a great job trying to keep the casino clean.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
They also had a bunch of like plexiglass set up like between every single machine, and like they had some that were just like closed off, and like it did seem like they were doing a good job like with all the requirements.
And then the third part of the area was the casino or the racetrack, which we didn't even really know that we were going to be able to see. It just so happened as we were leaving, we decided to go up to the top floor, and then there's a smoking area where you can see the racetrack.
Yeah.
And so that was nice to be able to.
Yeah, so that's good to know too, because whenever there's a race, we could just go into the casino and you can just see the race from above.
Yeah. Well, I imagine that the entry to the racetrack isn't very expensive anyway.
Oh, actually, that's a good point. I don't think I wrote it down, but in my research, I read that at one point, I think it was in the 80s or 90s, was there someone named Spitzer in charge?
Elliot Spitzer.
Yeah.
Who was...
He was like a...
He was the disgraced governor.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I thought he like got in trouble.
Yes.
He was going to close the aqueduct.
Yeah, and they were going to make the Belmont the big attraction.
Right. But then the people in Queens in that area fought to keep it open because it was known as sort of like the working man's racetrack. The Belmont was known as like the fancy one. So what you're saying about it being like a cheap admission price is probably true.
Yeah.
Or at least was at the time. It was like an affordable place where people could go and have a nice time.
It's considered a second-tier racetrack.
Yeah.
But there are tiers below.
Sure. So, that makes sense. Yeah.
And it is in operation right now. In fact, there were races today. We didn't get there.
It was at a weird time for us. They were at 1:30, And we could either have gotten there at like 11 a.m. or when we did get there, which was like 5:30. So
Yeah. So
we missed it.
Yep.
But
that's okay. We can go back again.
yeah.
And I'm glad we got to see the track because Belmont is closed right now, so you don't get the chance to see it.
Which I think is maybe partially because of COVID, but also it seems like Belmont runs for half the year and Aqueduct runs for the other half
it's
the
not
year.
COVID related.
Okay.
The whole horse racing scene is based around different tracks alternating between being on and off.
Right.
So, yeah.
I think this might be a good time to transition to you telling me about Belmont, but before we do that, can I give you a couple fun facts about Aqueduct that I wanted to share?
Sure.
Okay. So Aqueduct is the site of the first and only triple dead heat for the win in a stakes race. I'm not sure exactly what I just said. No, I think I'm pretty sure that like dead heat means that there was an exact tie.
Uh-huh.
And a triple dead heat means there was a 3-way exact tie.
Yeah, okay. Wow.
And it was in 1944.
Mm-hmm.
And do you want to know the horse's 3 names?
Yes.
That's always the best part. Carter Handicap.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait, no. The Carter Handicap was the name of the race.
Okay. Sure.
Okay. The horses were named Brownie. Basu. And Wait a Bit. The 3 of them hit the finish line at exactly the same time.
Wow.
And then in 2006, in the Wood Memorial Stakes, a rare event happened when dead heats for each of the 3 money positions happened in 3 separate races. Isn't that great? So do you understand that? So the dead heat is, again, like a tie.
Right.
And so there was a tie for win, place, and show in 3 separate races.
Wow. That's strange.
So strange.
Yeah.
Okay. And then just 2 more things.
Okay.
There's a Hall of Fame horse named Cigar.
Yeah.
And he had a 16 race win streak, and the first 2 of those were at the Aqueduct.
Okay. Great.
That's kind of a big deal. And then also Secretariat. You know him, right?
That's
Heard
right.
of him?
Yes.
He's a famous champion racehorse.
Yes, he is.
And he was retired at the Aqueduct in 1973 before the public.
There you go.
It says, he was paraded for the last time to the public and took his last steps on a racetrack there. He was then sent to stud at Claiborne Farm.
Very good.
We all know what that means.
Yes.
So those are the fun facts that oh, there was also something about Pope John Paul II doing a bunch of masses there for a period of time.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think I went and saw it.
Really?
Well, it seems like I remember seeing him at Belmont.
Oh, interesting. Maybe he went there too.
It seems unlikely.
He was a pope of the people.
He was a pope that people liked.
Yeah. But like, because the Aqueduct is like the people's, like the working man's.
Yeah.
It
seems strange. No, I understood.
Oh,
it seems
didn't like it.
It seems unlikely that he would perform both racetracks a few miles apart. Probably I was at the Aqueduct. Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah. So let's move on to the Belmont.
Please.
The Belmont, in its current location, was opened May 4th, 1905.
Oh.
Yeah. It was, or is, run by the New York Racing Association, as you mentioned, along with Aqueduct and Saratoga. And as you said, the Jamaica race course before it closed in 1959. That's when the New York Racing Association acquired all those. And it's now I don't know if it's Rochdale or Rockdale. Rockdale Village, that's the name of the apartment complexes, which was not directly on our route, but very close to our route this week. And I'm going to read off the other tracks that have been in New York City historically.
Okay.
There was the Brighton Beach race course.
Ooh.
Yeah. There was one in Gravesend race course. There's the Jamaica race course, as we mentioned. There's the Jerome Park Racecourse, which is in the Bronx, as well as the Morris Park Racecourse, which is in the Bronx.
Are either of them still around? Or are any of these
No,
still
no.
around? These
No,
are
they're
all done. Okay.
Yeah, they're all defunct. The Morris Park Racecourse was the original site of the Belmont Triple Crown race,
Oh, wow.
which we'll get to in a little bit. There was a Sheepshead Bay racetrack. There was a Union course in Woodhaven. And there's also, this is not in the city limits, but you mentioned it earlier, and it's in Yonkers, is the Empire Race course, which is harness racing and a casino.
What is harness racing?
That's when they have a carriage like on the back, like with wheels.
They do that?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So as you can see that, I don't know, it's like 7 or 8 different racetracks. I mean,
yeah, that used to be popular, huh?
Yeah, it was. And
I wonder
also
what happened.
all places that are, well, I guess I can't say definitively for the Bronx locations, but for the other ones, they're kind of like
beachy.
They're at edges
Yeah.
of areas.
Yeah.
So, which I guess makes sense. There's
yeah,
space.
it's like you said before, just like where there's room.
Yeah. So it was financed by August Belmont II.
Okay.
And he is notable for a couple of reasons. He financed the original subway. And of course, the subway system, which we should maybe do an episode on at some point, but that doesn't involve walking as much.
No, it's the opposite.
Yeah. The subway systems were private before they were made, public utilities, if you want to call that.
Right. And they were 2 lines, right?
I mean, they're more than...
The IRT and the...
I think there were more than 2. This is where I need to do research on. Yeah. But there was a lot of the reasons that the development of the subway came on so quickly as opposed to now. I mean, there are a lot of reasons why it goes slower now, but it was because they were private enterprises.
Right. So it was just somebody making the decisions and making it happen as opposed to bureaucratic stuff. Yeah.
And he...
So he financed the entire subway station at the time, or he financed like a section that he wanted
He financed the original subway.
Okay. Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah. And I don't know if I said it's somewhat debated, but let's say mostly thought that Belmont is named after his father, not him.
Oh.
So he's a junior.
Okay.
And August Belmont Sr. is important because he had a stable out in Babylon that raised championship horses in Babylon, Long Island. And then he picked up and moved his horse breeding operation out to Kentucky. And Kentucky is very well known for its bluegrass, which is great for raising horses. And it's unclear to me if he is not the father of Kentucky horse racing, he is certainly one of the prime movers.
Oh, wow.
And so the race, the Belmont Stakes, that's named after him. So it might be that his son is the person that is named after the park, but the race is named after the father. And so August Belmont II inherited the Babylon estate where the horses were raised, and he was big into polo, which was like a thing back then. So real aristocracy.
Yeah. Polo feels very fancy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as the specs of the track, it is 1.5 miles.
Oh, okay.
It has a couple of
Is that kind of big?
Yes. It has a couple of nicknames, including the fairest track, I think because the mileage evens things out.
All right.
Why are you skeptical of that?
Well, I don't know. I feel like I really don't know anything about horse racing, but when humans do running sports, some people are sprinters and some people are distance and some people are somewhere in between. And I don't know that it's like, it's just like maybe some horses are sprinters and some are long distance horses or whatever. I don't know. Whatever. I like it. It's good. The fairest track evens things out.
Another nickname for it.
I wish I could control my face and just listen.
Another nickname for it is Big Sandy.
I like that.
The Big Sandy.
Is it dirt?
I don't think so. I think it's sand.
Oh, it's sand?
I don't. Yeah, it's a deep, sometimes tiring surface.
Oh.
Yeah, equalizing, one might say.
It's like the blizzard.
Yes, and it's also referred to as the championship track.
Okay.
Because almost all horse champions of the past 100 years have run here.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's why you weren't impressed with my facts about a couple champions.
I guess,
the
maybe.
Aqueduct.
Yeah. Cigar. It is considered one of the set of elite tracks in the United States. Those include Saratoga, Keeneland, and Churchill Downs.
Okay.
Do you recognize Churchill Downs?
No.
That's Kentucky.
Okay.
That's the Kentucky Derby location.
Oh.
Del Mar and Santa Anita, which are in California.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I think Del Mar, and I'm fairly confident on this, but that was the one that we walked through when we were doing our California walk.
Oh, I knew it sounded familiar.
I believe so.
Okay.
And then this one was not listed as as part of the elite tracks, so I'd be curious to know why. But Pimlico is the other one that I'm familiar with because that is the second leg of the Triple Crown.
Oh.
The Preakness is the name of that race.
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's in Maryland.
Okay.
Yeah, in Baltimore.
Is it strange that now that I represent the Aqueduct, I'm feeling a little like when you keep calling them elite tracks, like I want to like fight you?
No, that sounds about right.
Okay.
Yeah. It was home to a bunch of aviation tournaments in the 1900s.
Like what?
Like the Wright brothers would put on these expositions where I don't know if I think they were just trying to figure out how planes worked. Like we're going to test out some new models and stuff.
And they would just like fly them around.
I guess so.
Like use it as a landing space?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. It was also I guess the mail flight leg between Washington, D.C. and New York for a period of time.
Like where the USPS mail planes would stop?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Well, let's see. What else? What other exciting facts can I give you here? The largest crowd ever was in 2004.
Okay.
When 120,139 people came to see the final leg of a Triple Crown bid for Smarty Jones, who had some local ties.
Is that the name of the horse or the jockey?
Smarty Jones is the name of the horse.
Okay.
And he lost.
Oh,
he lost
Smarty.
to Birdstone.
Oh.
Which gets me to the race itself, the Belmont Stakes, the third leg of the Triple Crown. It was first run in the 1870s at Morris Park, which I said earlier.
Okay,
And then I believe it moved there when it opened in the 1900s.
Okay.
Yeah. And there have been 13 winners of the Triple Crown. And I think it's pretty self-evident. You have to win all three races, the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont Stakes in 1 year. And it is a pretty difficult feat.
Yeah.
And I'll read off the winners
that
have won. 1919, Sir Barton. 1930, Gallant Fox. 1935, Omaha. 1937, War Admiral. He's a very famous horse.
I've heard of him.
Yeah. So 30s was a good run. There were three winners. None in the 20s. We went from 1919 to 1930.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Then 1940s, another great year. Whirlaway in 1941.
I wonder, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I wonder if they were doing horse races in the 20s.
Oh, yeah.
There were?
Yeah.
Well, because it was also like the Depression, right?
I promise you, they were
definitely racing
horses.
Okay, all right, Go on with the names. Say that one again. Whirlaway.
Whirlaway.
Oh.
And I believe that the Depression was the 30s, not the 20s. Prohibition was in the 20s. The Roaring 20s.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway.
Right. Well, cut that out.
It's fine. 1943, Count Fleet. 1946, Assault. Are you reading at the same
No.
time? I think you're reading it at the same time. You always do this. She's always reading my notes. It's very frustrating because I feel like I can't get that dramatic extra bit because you already know the answer.
Sometimes it's just easier for me to pay attention if I'm
1948. Did I say this one? Citation.
No, that's the first time I'm hearing it.
Yeah, so that's the news to me. So that's 4 winners in the 1940s. Make sure this doesn't get... So, did any happen in the 1950s?
I don't know. Did they?
No.
No?
Did any happen in the 1960s?
No.
No.
Wow.
Did any happen in the 1970s?
I'm going to say no.
Yes.
Oh.
1973. What do you think?
You want me to guess the name of the horse?
You already kind of said something about it, yeah.
Oh, was it Secretariat?
It was Secretariat.
Ooh, ding, 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 ding.
In dramatic fashion, he won with an all-time length and all-time speed.
Wow. What was it?
I don't recall
Okay.
offhand, I'm sorry. But you can, if you watch the race, you can see he just blows away the competition.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was very dramatic because it had been, what is it, 48, 58, 68. It had been 25 years since a horse had won the Triple Crown.
Wow, that's amazing. He must have been so excited.
He was very excited.
Yeah. I wonder how many people name their pets Secretariat.
I don't know. It only took 4 years until another horse came along.
Who was that?
Seattle Slew.
Oh.
Yeah, another well-known horse. And then 1978, Affirmed.
That was the name of the horse?
That was the name of the horse.
I don't care for that.
Okay. Well, it lived in the history books for quite some time because then the 80s came and went, the 90s came and went, the 2010s came and went, and there was no winner until 2015.
Oh.
American Pharaoh came and won.
That was his name?
That was his name. Right. And then 2018, just 3 years later, Justify won.
Oh.
And that is the list of all the Triple Crown winners. Now, there have been 23 that have won 2 legs.
Okay.
And ultimately come up short.
Yeah.
And
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
2 out of 3 ain't bad. Thank you. And, growing up on Long Island, it was actually kind of a, local thing, a big deal.
To go to the Triple Crown?
Well,
or
to go,
talk about it?
I've never actually went. Yeah. But to talk about it because, it would be 100,000 plus people going to check it out. And from 2002 to 2004, there were 3 unsuccessful bids to try and be the Triple Crown winner.
Oh, wow.
And I mentioned, it was War Emblem in 2002, Funny Side in 2003, and Smarty Jones in 2004. Oh. But I remember when I used to work at a nursing home for a number of years, and we would do news, like in the morning, and that was always a big thing to read the news about how this horse was going to be either it won the first one or the second one, and then as you were getting ready for the third one, people would be very excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
And Smarty Jones in particular was a real favorite.
Yeah.
So.
Oh.
Yeah, that is the very short of the history of Belmont. I don't think there's anything else there's a lot worth knowing about Belmont beyond that, but I think that's what I have listed here. So.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I would really like to do some horse races.
Okay.
I feel like I have watched them on the TV. I've placed small bets as a kid with my family just by watching the TV, and I'd like to do it in person for real.
Well, there's also a very big fashion component.
I was just going to say, I'd also like to dress up and get one of those hats.
There you go.
But I feel like, I wonder if you can only do that at Belmont. Now that I know that Aqueduct is the working class track and Belmont is the fancy track, I wonder if people dress up at Aqueduct.
I'm sure there's some vibe there. What are people going to do?
Yeah.
We were...
Oh, I guess we saw that woman in that amazing coat today.
Yes. There was a woman in a mobile scooter in this completely enveloping fur coat.
Yeah, with a sequined mask and a fur hat and sequined gloves.
Yeah, she was doing it up.
Yeah,
which,
it was a good look.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I commend her.
Yeah, it was cool.
Okay, we should pivot.
Okay, let's pivot.
Because we wanted to cover a lot of ground. We should talk about what we're wearing. Speaking of fashion.
Yeah, fashion.
Yeah, that's right. These are our winter dichotomies. And we'll put some pictures up on top of the video too,
Right,
so you can
because
see
they're
it.
probably hard to see, especially mine is printed blue on green, which I think is very cute in person, but probably doesn't show up very well on the camera.
Yeah. But yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, so what we did for this season is we were looking at the map when we were in Queens last, and we noticed that the neighborhood of Rego Park has a really interesting shape. And we were looking up why Rego Park looks the way it does, and it turns out that Rego Park looks the way it does because it was built by the Rego Construction Company in
I believe the 20s.
24, I want to say, for some reason.
Great.
And
part of this information, by the way, and I excuse my interruption, was informed by one of our recent podcast guests, Patrick Weaver. He said, go look up Rego Park and do your own, research. And so that was kind of how we started going down this rabbit hole.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was the case.
That's right.
Oh, thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, you can check him out along with JP, his partner, on our Greenwood Cemetery episode.
Yeah, so Rego Park was built by Rego Construction Company, and then Rego stands for real good.
Yeah.
Which we thought was so funny, and I would like to bring that into our language. The Rego for real good. And so what we did is these are a little more graphic and aesthetically designed than some of the other dichotomies that are more like thought-provoking and based on language and maybe hard to read. These are really easy to read. Mine is Rego Flight, and it has the Rego Park situated to look like wings.
Yes.
And then Mike?
Yes, I have Rego Sight, and this is what it actually looks like. It looks like this in both instances, but it's not actually doubled up on the map.
Right.
We just chose to make it look like that on the shirt that Jesse wears, so it would look like wings.
Yes.
But oriented this way, it kind of looks more like an eyeball. It also reminds me, for people that are fans of the Zelda Breath of the Wild series, it kind of reminds me of some of the iconography that goes on there. And yeah, I mean, it was just fun to kind of identify that in the map, the Google Maps view of everything. And it is interesting to look at the city from that perspective. And there are a lot of shapes. I don't know if there are as many as compelling as this one, but there are a lot of shapes that arise in the city, particularly in areas that are not Manhattan. Because the Manhattan area it's grid, which is its own compelling shape, but it doesn't kind of form that sort of imagination spark, kind of like when you're looking at a cloud.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Yeah. So this was one that sparked our imagination.
Yeah, and it's nice because when we've walked through Rego Park since noticing that, it's like we have a whole new appreciation and connection to that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And what Rego is. Yeah.
Yeah. And we will be selling these, much like we have sold the previous dichotomies, and we will have some further information on that.
Yeah, we'll probably do another little video or something, a post or something like that. And what we know we are going to do is, because it's winter, we wanted to get ourselves these sweatshirts to wear while we're walking, and we went to one of our favorite places, Udelco, which is in Hawthorne, New Jersey. We've talked about it before. It's this bulk vintage store, where, you know, they collect like used items and dead stock items, and you go in and it's just like a bunch of cardboard boxes stacked really high, all labeled. Some are incorrectly labeled, some are correctly labeled. It's awesome. It's really fun. You go and you just like dig through stuff. And we went and dug through a bunch of their crew necks, sweatshirts, and pulled out colors that we liked and all sorts of different sizes. And we'll be printing on those. We might have some t-shirts available to print on too, but I think we might also just stick to the crew necks since it's winter, and each one is really going to be unique and its own.
Yeah. Very much.
Even more so than before. Like it already was that, but this collection is going to be really like each one is one of a kind.
That's right. This is from the same trip we did when we picked up the hats, for those that have seen the hat video that we put out. And thank you all for those that have made orders for the hats.
Yeah.
It's been really gratifying to get those, and we still have a few more. So if you're interested, there's a video on that. We can throw a link onto that, and you can get some while it's still cold.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Get them while it's hot, but while it's still cold.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know if there's anything much more to say about this. You know, we are, I guess, expanding the idea of what a dichotomy is, as Jesse mentioned. And whereas previously it has been about the interplay of words being slightly different from each other, this is actually kind of still fits within that, but it's not phrasing.
Right.
Sight and flight are slight changes in the wording.
Right.
But it's as much about how the design references each other as it is about the actual words. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's our little intro to the winter dichotomies. And I think there's one more thing we wanted to talk about while we're on this podcast this week, which was back to our walking route. We've been walking through a blizzard and the aftermath of a blizzard all week.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, totally. So we, for some folks that are super keen on what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, we already recorded an episode about what it was like to be in the blizzard while it was super fresh in our minds.
Yeah, we came home after almost 11-hour day of walking through ice winds and recorded a podcast about walking through ice winds.
Yeah.
So if you want to hear all about that, yeah, we'll link to that.
Well, we're gonna include it here in a second.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, that's my plan.
Oh, wonderful. We don't even have to link to it because that would have been my job. So yeah, just stay tuned then.
That's right. But
sorry about that.
No, it's fine. We should include kind of what it's been like the rest of the week. Talk to it for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
I think there are so many things that are interesting about walking around the city when there is just a metric ton of snow around. It's been interesting. You know, we did it in December when we had kind of a surprise snow at the very end of fall,
right.
December 19th or so.
Right.
And that was fun. And the Manhattan experience of snow is pretty responsive when it comes to getting the sidewalks clean. Not the case out in very East Queens.
Yeah, as expected.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
I mean, I wasn't surprised by that at all.
And, walking in the streets for the past couple of days is perfectly fine.
Right.
But it does add a lot of time. It does, our feet have been tested more than they have been tested in the past 4 or 5 months. Really, our feet had achieved perfect, symmetry with our experience. And now wearing our boots and constantly uneven terrain has been making us look forward to having this time off.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the biggest thing, wearing the boots, they're like slightly heavier than the shoes, but the boots we have are great and really like comfortable to walk in all day. But I think the biggest thing for me is that because it was such a heavy snow and such a tall snow, there's multiple times throughout the day that you go to step in the snow and then you sink in further than the boot, and then snow goes into the boot, and so then like throughout the rest of the day it's just slowly melting into like the really great insulated lining of the boot, and then slowly feeling slightly damp in the waterproof boot, so that kind of thing is annoying on a short walk and just like more annoying on a long walk, I guess.
Yeah.
Not even that uncomfortable in the moment, but more like it's like it affects you the next day because then things are a little damp and your feet are getting a little blistered and.
Yeah. My feet, I mean, and to a lesser extent, Jesse's feet, look like we've been in a bathtub for 12 hours. Because the dampness, I mean, it turns into water shoes
Yeah.
just because the height of the snow is so significant. And it's not so bad walking on the sidewalks, even if they're not shoveled.
Yeah.
It's a little bad at the crosswalks because that's where all the water accumulates. What was really the worst was there are just some areas that we were planning on walking that are either very rarely used sidewalks or the sides of roads that were simply just snow. And we had to
Yeah.
walk through them for maybe a quarter mile to a half mile where there are no other footprints. And you're just, you might as well be in an open field in the middle of the country. There's
Yeah.
no difference there.
It's funny how I guess I'm just so used to like everywhere in New York having walkers.
Yeah.
And a lot of those areas that you're talking about are kind of like when we're getting close out to Belmont and we're near Nassau County and like there aren't that many walkers and it is kind of a highway, but there's a sidewalk there.
Yeah.
And the sidewalk just isn't cleared. And I find myself being like, what, do they think no one walks out here? And like, but then like you said, yeah, there's like no other footprints. So probably no one walks out there. And that's why they haven't cleared it.
Yeah.
And they're probably dealing with the places in the city where people walk typically. So yeah, it's fine. We had a couple areas where we really had to like just go for it and like be in knee-high snow. Like every step you're like, maybe I'll float on the top this time.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Even in the moment, like that kind of like hopping through it is kind of fun. And I think the one thing that a lot of people have texted me to be like, are you warm enough? Are you doing okay?
Yeah.
And yes, like that's really been like the saving grace for this week is that even though the snow makes it kind of hard to walk through and the feet have gotten a little bit damp, like I've felt super warm. I think we finally figured out the formula for preparing
layers.
Yeah. Just like a lot of long underwear.
Yeah. And I'd say, it's amazing how the body can acclimate to temperature. Yesterday we were finally getting out of the cloudiness and any trace of snow coming down, and it was like 33 degrees and like 25 with the wind chill, and I swear it felt like spring.
Yeah.
I don't understand how that's possible because 2 weeks ago the same circumstances felt very cold, but now I guess after walking through a blizzard and a couple of days are really cold, it just changes your perspective.
Yeah, I think that's it. And it was sunny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm referring to like after the sun had gone down.
Oh.
Yeah, but yeah, we were downright hot for 2 days.
Yeah.
The day previous, which the first day that everything had cleared up, we were still dressing as though a blizzard was happening, so we were sweating. And today we toned it back a bit, and we kind of hit a fairly good spot.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. One last thing that I want to bring up before we go to the blizzard day. I have found myself really enjoying, I have found myself interested and generally enjoying the etiquette that's involved in navigating these very congested sidewalks, because I really like the opportunity to either say thank you or to get out of the way for people and then see their reaction. Jesse and I were talking about this earlier today. I feel like over 50% of the people are very appreciative, and we wouldn't otherwise have an opportunity to interact with them, really, especially during a pandemic. People are not really inclined to smile or look at you, but you get an opportunity to show deference and like be respectful and like do a very small act of kindness to people.
Yeah.
And I feel I find it energizing. I also find it like, well, why didn't that person? Oh, what's wrong with them?
Yeah, it's like a weird.
Why didn't they, say thank you? What's wrong with them?
Yeah, I feel like I don't. I feel similarly to you, and I think the times that I get the like, excuse me,
Yeah.
is when I'm like climbing into us. Like I notice like, oh, I'm wearing really good shoes and I'm also out all day and like I don't mind like climbing into the snow to let this person go by because I see that they're like not wearing snow boots or something, or like have like a lesser pair of boots on, or you know. And then they don't even like acknowledge that I've like climbed into the snow.
Yeah.
Like it's one thing if I'm just like waiting at the end of the trail, I like whatever, either say thank you or don't. I like, who cares?
Yeah.
But when I've basically just like thrown myself in front of a car or something, you know, I'm like jumping out of the way and like my feet are getting wet.
Yeah.
That's when I'm like, all right, well, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Like, what did I do that for?
Right. Yeah.
But it is, I mean, it's kind of a game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, you get some really interesting reactions from people. People you might not expect reacting nicely, people you expect reacting nicely, not acting in any way. So
yeah. I also really like the there's something about the heavy snow that just, it does kind of like bring people together in a way. I like the like seeing someone shoveling out their car and making eye contact with them, and like they know that you see them and they're exhausted and you know they're exhausted and you're like thankful you don't have to do that, and you give them like a knowing smile and they're like, oh yeah, like they're like, I know.
Yeah. That's
and then
fun.
you like see them again later and you're like, you're still at it, good luck. And they're like, ah.
We had an interaction with a pair of guys that were throwing snow off the roof earlier. And just, hey, good luck. Thanks for not throwing snow on us.
Yeah. There were also some guys throwing snowballs across the street.
Yeah.
Across a really big, like busy, I think on Jamaica.
Yeah.
And they like stopped when they saw that we were going by. But they could also see that I was like, are they going to throw snowballs at? And they were laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just fun. It's like, I guess because we don't get snow that often. Maybe like we get it enough that we know what it is,
right?
And we like kind of know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
But I feel like we also don't get it all. Like you're not gonna get a snow like this every single year.
Yeah.
So when it happens, it's like everyone kind of turns into a kid.
Yeah. Okay. One last thing before we turn it over to what we talked about, the blizzard. I know you're all very excited. We should call out, and this might take a second to pull up. But we met a lovely woman today at her shop, which was I guess both like a center for community activity and I guess a gospel shop.
Yeah, so it's called God's Gospel Cafe.
Yeah.
And her name was Sharon, and she had someone working with her called Chica. And yeah, it was really great to meet both of those people. Sharon and Chica were both really nice, and the shop that Sharon has is in Hollis.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, she said she just opened it in October. There's we were walking down the street. We were actually going to go to the deli on the corner, and then Mike has been taking pictures of all the free food fridges that we see.
Yeah.
Just to document, where they are, and they're always like painted really nice, and yeah. So I noticed what we hadn't noticed before, probably because we were trudging through the snow, that down that street there was a free food fridge. So I said, oh, Mike, let's go take a picture. And then as Mike is like getting the right shot, this woman comes to the door, and I was almost like, oh no, she's gonna like, be like, why are you taking pictures? I was just like ready to be like yelled at. And then it was the exact opposite experience. She was like, what? Hi, like, what are you doing? What are you wearing? What are those emblems on your jacket and hat? And like, tell me about your project. And then she was so excited about our project and wanted to take a picture with us. And like, we had this really nice chat. And yeah, Chico took the picture for us, and he's a nice young man that's studying at Brooklyn College right now and helping out at the shop. And yeah, it sounds like it's a place for people in the community to come get what they need, come give what they have, and
it was
yeah,
the
learn
most
about
amazingly stocked free fridge I've seen.
It was crazy, yeah.
It was really impressive.
Yeah, yeah.
And they even had a pantry, like non-perishable box next to it, and
and she has a dance studio there, and is working with different artists in the neighborhood to really like beautify the space. And yeah, I think it's a really cool community space that we're not part of the Hollis community, so I don't know, I can't say like, oh, we're excited to have them in that area, but I assume that anyone in Hollis would be excited to have Sharon in the neighborhood because she's really just great energy. And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and
seems to really care about people and care about what she's bringing.
Her birthday is February 5th, tomorrow, and mine is February 6th, the day after. So that was a fun thing we shared too.
Yeah. So happy birthday to Sharon.
Yeah.
And I hope that, I don't know if anybody is going through Hollis, go check it out.
Yeah, we're going to go stop by again the next time our route takes us through there just to say hello.
Definitely.
Because it was really positive. But let us go to the blizzard section of our podcast for today.
To the blizzard.
Yeah. We wanted to sit down while the experience was fresh to talk about today's events. And what did we do today?
Well, today we walked a marathon in a blizzard.
That's right. So, I don't know, is my face as red as it was before?
No, it's calmed down. Are my eyes as tired as they feel?
Yeah, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
So we're a little bit beat up, as one might expect, but in a way, it's like we did 161 marathon walks to prepare for today's marathon.
Yeah, Mike did say that to me at some point, I think in between my second and third time crying within the first 3 hours.
Right.
And that was encouraging for a little while.
Well, why don't we go through the emotional beats of your journey?
Okay.
Tell us how you felt.
Sure. Okay. So, let's just start from the very beginning. We got up. We were prepping to go on this walk today. I was feeling a little bit stressed about work stuff, but I figured, we'll be in a blizzard and I'll forget about that. I'll just melt away.
That's right. Jesse got home at 2 a.m.
I did. Oh, that's right. I got home at 2 a.m. from working really hard because I am getting close to some deadlines, and between COVID and the blizzard and just general sort of cram time, just a few extra things fell on my plate over the weekend. So I was trying to rush and get those done, and the rushing part didn't quite happen, and I got home at 2. So yeah, I guess I had only 5 hours of sleep for the first time, though, to be clear, that used to be a typical thing for me to only get about 5 or 6 hours of sleep a night. And I have been getting 8.5 hours of sleep every night since we've started this.
Sure.
So it was a real exception. And I was tired this morning, and I was thinking about work stuff. And then, we were going to do this blizzard walk, and I was ready for it. I put on 3 pairs of long underwear, my snow pants, a pair of long underwear on top, 2 sweatshirts, and then I went back and I added a thermal under one of the sweatshirts, the big puffy jacket. We debated about rain clothes. We decided not to wear rain clothes. And yeah, I mean, when we first started walking, I felt pretty excited and like we were going on an adventure, which we were. And I think I cried the first time, maybe an hour in, which is right. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
When the wind really started picking up. And at first I was getting wind and ice kind of in my eyes. And I was like, this is fine, feeling awake. we can handle this. But then it just kept happening.
Yeah.
And I thought, I still have 9 hours of wind and ice in my eyes, and like, is it gonna take my eyes out? Am I gonna have to go to the eye doctor? I really don't like going to the doctor. Like, am I gonna have to go to the eye doctor after this? Am I gonna hurt myself?
Right.
Those were my thoughts.
Yeah.
And also just like, I don't want to, was really also my thought.
Right. I wasn't really aware that all these thoughts were happening. I was slightly walking ahead.
Yeah.
Just all of a sudden, Jessie screamed.
Oh, right.
And then spun in a circle.
Yeah.
It was
I
really...
kind of forgot about that.
Really unsettling. Because I thought we were having a good time.
Yeah. That's the thing. We were having a good time. I was not having a good time in my head,
right.
Separately, physically.
Right.
But we were having a nice conversation. We were perfectly pleasant.
And then a psychotic break happened very briefly.
Just like just a quick little like gotta get it out. And then I think I had a granola bar.
Sure.
And that helped for a little while. And then maybe an hour later, I was crying again.
Yeah.
Because I think we went through some like really unplowed areas.
Yeah.
For like way longer than I wanted to be doing that. And there was the ice wind coming straight towards us.
Yeah.
Strong. And and we had to like trample through, when you're like each step you're sinking in. And then the snow was coming above my boots and I was like, oh fuck, like we're just a couple hours in and like the snow is already getting in my boots and my feet are gonna freeze. Like what if my ankles freeze and then I can't walk anymore? And like what if I have to get my foot amputated? And I was just like, this isn't worth it. So that's when I started crying again. And then I didn't scream that time.
No,
I held it together a little bit
just
better.
Crying.
Yeah, I think just a little. You were also like pretty far ahead of me, so I had like plenty of time to just cry before you noticed.
Where was this? Was this in Jamaica?
Yeah, it was in Jamaica.
Yeah. Just to be clear for future audiences and people that are not in New York City, we're talking 18 inches of snow, 50 to 60 mile an hour gusts.
Yeah.
And consistently 30 mile an hour winds.
Yeah. And also the snow was ice coming from the sky. The snow, when it landed on the ground, it was snow. It was actually really nice, like crunchy, crinkly snow.
Yeah.
But as it was coming out of the air, it was ice.
When it was blowy, it was, hard on the face.
Yeah.
Which is why you got...
goggles.
That's right.
Yeah, so I do have ski and snowboarding goggles, and I have joked about wearing them in the winter, never thinking that I'd actually need them. And today would have been a day to try them out because I didn't bring them along. We went into a Dwayne Reed. I thought, actually one of those face shields that people wear because of COVID would have been so helpful because of the ice winds. So Mike spotted a Dwayne Reed and we went in and we couldn't find a face shield, but we found these medical goggles, which I think probably when they don't get wet, they work really well. But once they get wet, it's like, it feels like what I imagine it feels like to not have good eyesight.
Well, they changed colors too.
Significantly not good eyesight.
I don't know why, but they were clear previously.
Yeah, I'm
and
realizing
now they're
now
green.
I think they have a film on them.
Yeah, maybe that's part of why.
Oh my gosh, maybe that's part of why they didn't.
Or maybe that's they're
why
protective.
I couldn't see.
Who knows?
Yeah, either way. It was so helpful though to have these goggles when the ice winds picked up.
Sure.
Yeah, they were great.
I just walk through them.
Yeah, I don't know how you did that without the gogs.
Just
didn't your
move
eyes
forward.
hurt today?
I mean, sure.
Yeah.
It was just kind of part of it. I didn't want to wear something that was going to fog up. That would be more bothersome to me than the pain of the shards.
Yeah, it's not even really that they fogged up. It's more that you just couldn't see. It's like they just got wet and then It wasn't, I don't know if it was fog or not, but it was just like wet and then like smeary. Like it at some points I was like, oh, this must be what it feels like to not have eyesight. And then at other points I was like, oh, must be what it feels like to be very, very drunk in a blizzard.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because there were a number of times that I thought I was just walking on like flat snow and then all of a sudden my foot would just sink.
Yeah.
But I still think that the goggles were helpful because I didn't keep them on all day. It was just like in the moments when we were walking straight into the ice wind.
Yeah.
Is when I put on the goggles. And I could even like kind of just hold them over the top part of my eyes.
Yeah.
And then keep my head down and like I could see, kind of like wearing bifocals or something. Just created my own little bifocals.
Yeah.
But I did cry a third time when post acquiring the goggles. I think it was when we were on that long road in Hollis, which started out, there was a road in Hollis, Queens that started out really nice.
99th Avenue.
Yeah. And it started out really nice. I think it was the first road that today we walked on the street instead of on the sidewalk because the sidewalks were not cleared at all. The street was fairly cleared and there were just no cars coming.
Yeah.
So we were walking on the street and then I think the road just was really long and about halfway through the road, the ice winds picked up again. So I had to put on my goggles and the streets were only like semi-cleared. So it was hard. It was just like trudging through and I was tired and a couple cars came and I tried to step out of the way and then just like, because I didn't see there was a snowbank because of these goggles, I just like tripped over, and then would take off. I mean, it's like I was safe. I could like take off the goggles right away and then see clearly. But it was just frustrating. I was just tired. And it was like, I think there's something about in general on the walks. We were like almost at the halfway point. And I think once you hit the halfway point, you're like, oh, okay, I just have to do this one more time. But when you're on your way to the halfway point, it's like, we're not even halfway. Like it's a crazy mindset. And I could adapt that and think like, once I do 1 mile, I only have to do it 25 more times. But yeah, I think the way my brain works with these things, especially on the days that are hard weather-wise, leading up to that halfway point is harder.
Yeah. So then we got some food at a deli.
We did?
Yeah.
Well, I got a Gatorade.
And I got you, or a Gatorade, and we got you some napkins so you could blow your nose and clear off your goggles.
Yeah. And I had a lot of snacks, and I brought 3 granola bars today.
Yeah. One might be surprised how little we ate, though.
Yeah.
I mean, we just had a big dinner and then are sitting down to record this now.
Yeah.
But I had to eat a piece of blueberry bread that was maybe the size of 2 decks of playing cards stacked on top of each other. And then I had 6 peanut butter crackers from like one of those dollar bags. And then I had a cinnamon brown sugar Pop-Tarts, 2 of them. And then that was it.
Is that all you ate all day?
Yeah.
Oh,
and then nothing to drink. We didn't have water until we got home.
I didn't offer you my Gatorade.
You did. I declined.
Oh. It got so cold. I drank it throughout the day, and it was the ice blue one, and it got by the end of the day it was so cold, which I liked. It was nice.
Yeah.
I had a bowl of cereal before we left with some sugar on top. I had a coffee. I had some orange juice. I had the 3 granola bars that I brought along, one of which was the apple pie Lara bar, and it was so yummy. I also had 2 cheese sticks and the Gatorade. We've talked about that. Maybe that was it. I feel like there was one more thing. Oh yeah, I brought 3 granola bars and I also bought 1 granola bar.
Yeah.
But that's still not a lot of food. We also didn't sit down at all.
No, you can't. I mean,
or really
where?
Stop. There was one time that I thought about asking you if we could sit down in the bus stop.
Yeah.
Do you remember when we were walking by there was a school and there were 2 people cleaning the sidewalk right near the bus stop. And I thought to myself, that's so nice that those people are clearing the sidewalk around the bus stop, because they weren't dressed in like city uniform. Like it just looked like people that maybe lived in the neighborhood and wanted the bus stop to be clear.
Yeah.
And I thought that would be a good spot to sit, but then I would have felt weird sitting there while those people were clearing the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And I also felt like we should just keep going.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, we typically don't stop on the marathon walks anyway, or like we don't need to stop.
Yeah.
And so that was just kind of part of the game plan at this point.
Yeah, I guess we didn't need to stop, so we didn't.
Yeah. And then it ended up we left at 9:45, we got back at 8:15. It was more physically exerting. We ended up, the pedometer said 28.2 miles. We got to a block away from our house and it said 26.9 miles. And the day before, I had walked a little bit more and it was not that distance when I checked it. So I was skeptical that the pedometer was accurate.
Yeah.
So we completely retraced the route, which is to say we went like a mile past our house and then back to make sure that we would have walked the full marathon regardless of whether or not the pedometer was right.
Yeah, so. Which it's the pedometer tracks based on length. Like it's not a GPS thing. It's based on, it's like a one that you hook onto your pants and it tracks the movement.
It's stride length, but it also says that it's optional to input stride length. So it's always kind of a little mystifying.
It's a little confusing.
It's possible there was a couple of deviations that made it longer along the route. So it's possible, but not likely that was what it was. So rather actually feel confident and possibly go over than not. So
yeah, we wanted. I mean, we had basically done it, and we knew that we could not collapse by walking up the street and back.
Yeah.
So, might as well just make sure that we did the full marathon.
I think it was 8:15. So 9:45 to 8:15. 10 and a half hours.
I think.
Which is slower, but for obvious reasons. I mean, most of this
10 and a half or 11 and a half? 10 and a half. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Most of actually a surprisingly low amount of sidewalk space was cleared, to be honest. I think a lot of people were just like, it's a blizzard. I'm not going to go into work. I'm not going to do anything.
Yeah.
Period.
I think at the beginning of the day, there was more sidewalk available.
Yeah.
And then, as it snowed the entire day, less and less.
Yeah.
And also there were just not very many cars on the road. Like in the morning, there were closer to the normal amount of cars on the road. Or at least maybe I wasn't even paying attention because we were on the sidewalk. But definitely by the end of the day, we were just walking in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
And there was no one.
Yeah, we were trying to avoid the bigger roads, go one block over and then walk on the side roads.
Yeah.
And that worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
Honestly, most of the cars we saw at that point, I'd say 40% were in some various sense of distress.
Yeah.
And we tried to help on 2 separate occasions.
We failed both times.
The first occasion, the car was just straight up on a hill of snow. And it wasn't really apparent until we started pushing that it was like, oh, we are making no difference.
Yeah. It was like after we walked away, we could see that the front wheels weren't even touching the ground.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, that wasn't going anywhere. But the first time was also like in someone's driveway and they were clearly working on trying to get it out. And I just was watching them. And then there was like an older man and he sort of was like, push, and called us over. So
yeah.
We tried, and then we tried for, I don't know, one try, and it wasn't going to move. and we were all just kind of like, all right, good luck, bye.
Yeah. But of course, anybody that lives in a cold climate knows that there is a real sense of satisfaction getting a car out of snow. So we were as much seeking this
I
experience
was
out.
really looking towards this because, yeah, it feels so good. You feel so strong. And usually, it's weird because usually I feel like it's so easy to push a car out of snow because usually I guess it was just so much snow today, maybe.
I don't know.
I feel like usually it's like it has some traction. It just needs that little oomph, and then you like barely have to touch it and it goes and you feel so strong.
Yeah. The second time, there was a guy that we saw him get caught in one half of the intersection, and we're going to help him there. But then he drove to the other half of the intersection and get caught. So then we walked over and like signaled at him. And, it was like a bad date. We didn't really have the chemistry.
Yeah.
I think he wanted our help, but he also was unwilling to communicate.
He we were like, oh, do you want a hand pushing it? And he was like, yeah, thank you. But then like backed up and we were like, well, we're about to stand behind your car. Like, you can't back up. Like, we're going to help you push. But we were like, okay, maybe that's helping. And then he like went forward, but then we started pushing and it didn't seem like he was accelerating. Like, it seemed like he had stopped accelerating once we started pushing, but then like only accelerated when we weren't touching the back of the car. Like, I don't know if he didn't understand how this works or if it was just not communication or
We needed to coordinate, and every time the car was ready to be pushed, he would hit the gas without saying anything. And then when we were trying to like, okay, well, I guess it's time to push, he would start going in reverse and we'd be like, no, we were going to get hit by the car.
We weren't getting hit by the car. We didn't get hit by the car.
Well, no, because
we saw the reverse lights go on and moved away.
But what should have happened is we should have all pushed at the same time.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were like, and then he got out and he had an ice scraper and he was scraping under each wheel, and then he got back in again and we did the dance for a little bit. And then ultimately we were like, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
And then there was like, in the same part of the intersection where he had gotten caught and freed himself earlier, there was then traffic piling up and they were beeping their horns.
And then the two cars finally just like, they could just turn. And so the one car turned and then the second car turned, who was the one that was beeping, and rolled down his window. And I think he yelled, dude, get a big boy truck or something.
Yeah, he did. He was from Minnesota, according to his license plate.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So he knows about snow.
He knows about big boy trucks.
Minnesota.
Yeah.
Is what I called it once when I was there and it snowed. Yeah. So, yeah, 2 unsuccessful attempts to push people out. I sort of like, it's unfortunate. It's fine. But I sort of had this idea of like, we're going around town. We're going to like, all day long, we're just going to be like, boop, boop, just like pushing people. In every neighborhood, we'll have pushed a car out of distress.
No.
Didn't happen. We also saw 2 cars that were out of control. We saw one small car and then one Jeep that were both swervy.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun. No, they were fine. And then the other thing is we heard a fire truck. We heard the second fire truck of the day, and I said to Mike, what do you think a fire truck is needed for on a day with a blizzard? Do a lot of fires happen on blizzard days, or are they going to deal with trees, or like, what do you think this is about? And then we noticed that it had stopped just 2 blocks ahead, so we were like, well, we're going to find out what the fire truck is needed for. And the fire truck had been racing to get to an ambulance that was stuck, like not an ambulance that's in the boxy truck, but an ambulance that's in like the Sprinter car van.
Mm-hmm.
And all the firefighters had gotten out of the fire truck and they were pushing the ambulance out of the snow. And they did it. But there were also like 8 or 10 firefighters.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. I'm feeling competitive with them, but I should realize. But they just looked so happy. Like, they did it, and then they were like laughing and like kind of like dancing around and like waving to the ambulance, and then the ambulance got stuck again, so they like got to do it again. So that was fun. That was fun to watch them enjoy that time.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say about today?
No.
Okay.
I think those are the highlights.
Those are the
Are
highlights.
we missing anything? Oh, well, we were warm. Did we say that? Did we say that? I was very warm. I had to keep taking my gloves off because I was, in fact, too warm.
Yeah, I was very comfortable. We were both very wet, but comfortable. My feet, for whatever reason, well, I know what reason, because we were in 18 inches of snow, they were like water shoes. Even though I'm very happy with the boots,
Yeah.
it was just a little too much.
Probably from going in the deep snow
Yeah.
too many times.
Yeah.
Yeah. My feet were actually fine. They were like, you could tell that they had gotten wet. Like when I took my shoes off, like my socks were a little damp. But when I was actually wearing the shoes, I didn't feel like I had wet feet.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all I want to say about the snowy day,
Yeah.
on the snowy day. We
Yeah.
can talk more about it later. We're going to continue. I don't know, this is either at the end or the beginning of the podcast. And we will also be talking about the racetracks.
That's right.
At the end of the week.
All right, well, that does it for this week of our action-packed episode of the podcast. Racetracks and sweatshirts and blizzards, oh my.
Yeah, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, you can share this with a friend, you can subscribe, you can comment, you can like, you can touch all the buttons on the page, and yeah, send us your thoughts, and hope to see you again soon.
Yes, thanks so much for your support as always, and until next time, take care.
Bye.
Bye.